The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
14:20 in the morning, 14 minutes and 20 seconds where the sports talk to get you through your daily commute. Hot takes, recaps, best bets, and a little humor to get your day going in the right direction. Sit back, grab your coffee, and let's get into it. All right, 14:20 in the morning for this third day of February 2024. Today's show, as always, is brought to you by SeatGeek.com, the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420pod at SeatGeek.com today and save yourself $20 on your first purchase over there at SeatGeek. And remember, we are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Go to bellyupsports.com for all their great articles on the website, and then other great podcasts that are over there at Belly Up Sports. Got a lot going on next Sunday morning, Super Bowl Sunday. Going to be a guest on the Belly Up Super Bowl special, 7:30 in the morning, Mountain Standard Time, 9:30 Eastern Time. Make sure you check your local listings for everything that might be out there to watch the Super Bowl show before the festivities get going on TV for the Super Bowl. Anyways, thank you very much for everybody who's been listening to the show for all these years and watching on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our channel today to make sure you don't miss out on all the clips and stuff that we're putting out there on a daily basis to entertain the masses. Anyways, the NHL All-Star festivities got going on Thursday night a little bit with the draft, but last night they really got going with the skills competition. For all intent and purpose, the NHL finally got it right. I'm not a big proponent of the skills competition or the NHL All-Star game the way it's turned out over the last few years. It's gotten gimmicky. I understand it's supposed to be gimmicky. It's an All-Star game, not the highest of competition, but I've always thought that maybe it should be a celebration of the game and not be make a mockery of the game as it was doing for the last few years with the some of the shenanigans they had going on at the skills competition with guys wearing capes and the costumes and all that stuff. I thought it was kind of a joke, but that's just my opinion. And I've always been not the biggest proponent of that kind of stuff. I know it's entertainment. I know it's for the kids to an extent. I got some pushback yesterday about my thoughts about the skills competition, but then somebody said it's for the kids. I said, well, if it's for the kids, and why are your tickets $300? A kid can't afford a $300 seat to go to these things, right? So if it's for the kids, make it for the kids. But for all intent and purpose, I was out and about last night. We went for a beverage at a local establishment. They had it on the TV, and the place was pretty full. And when Leon Draisaitl of the Edmonton Oilers was having a bit of a rough go at it at the accuracy shooting competition, there was a lot of people that were cheering for him to miss. So they must have been Calgary Flames fans or whatever it might have been. But that was pretty entertaining. So there was a lot of juice to it. And then the utmost, what was really the biggest thing right from the get-go, you seen how engaged a guy like Connor McDavid was or is, and he in the event last night, that he was there to put on a show for the people of Toronto, for the fans watching on TV and everything else. And he did the NHL right last night with the effort that he put in right on through, and it showed the skill level that guy's got. How he's Makar almost got him at the end of it, but it just showed the utmost the skill level this guy has in comparison. How we said over the years we've been doing it, the 1420 podcast, that McDavid's skill level is far and above better than anybody that's ever played the game. He's not the best ever because that's still Gretzky, as we say all the time, but the skill level that guy showed and the high speed that he can do things at, and he does it not only in a skills competition but also in game competition. That the speed that guy has and the drive to do everything that guy has, and winning is very important, and you can see that with the Oilers and their 16-game winning streak that they're going to try to improve to on Tuesday night when they get to play again. It's been off for 10 days, so probably the worst thing for a streak is having that kind of time off. You want to keep going and see what you can get going with. Just keep that thing rolling, keep the ball rolling downhill. Momentum is a thing in sports, but the thing with McDavid, we'll get back to that, is the drive to win, the drive to be great, the drive to show everybody what he's got on a night in night out basis. It's remarkable to watch when you get an elite talent like that you could probably take a night off of at the skills competition. But when you have this preconceived notion of being the best, you got to show you're the best night in night out, or else people will say some derogatory things if you mail it in at something at the All-Star game, which in general it doesn't much matter. It's an event. It's a made for TV event. I thought last night there was a few times things started to drag on a little bit. You see the same thing over and over. It's like, this one didn't quite this event didn't quite cut it. This event didn't quite do it for me. But in general, it was a decent night for for the game of hockey. And I thought that was a very well put together, good show. Like they got some tidying up to do for the next one to try to condense a little bit. I thought it dragged on by the end of it, but it's just one of those things. You're not going to perfect it, and they're not going to have a chance to perfect it next season, because the NHL announced yesterday during the All-Star break next year they're going to be hosting a Four Nations Cup, which is going to pit Canada, U.S., Finland, and Sweden, and they're going to play each other in a little tournament kind of a deal. I think it's a good idea. And then they also announced that the NHL is going to be back in the Olympics in 2026 and 2030, I think it was. They've announced that they're going to be back in it after a few year hiatus and everything else has been going on. The only problem that I got with that is that because you have whatever's happened with like the war with that Russia and Ukraine are having right now, and the sanctions against Russia. Is Russia going to be allowed into the Olympics and everything else? So it kind of does put a bit of a damper on it, on the Olympic the Olympic tournament, because some of the best players are still Russian. The Russians have obviously a huge presence in the National Hockey League, and they've been one of the powerhouses in hockey since forever, since '72 when they came back on the scene and everything else. They took on the Summit Series with Team Canada. Everybody knows how that one turned out. Paul Henderson scoring 3 consecutive nights for Canada to win that back in '72. But you look at that Olympic tournament. Is it best on best? 100%. It's about time that they got back there. But if Russia's not involved, like how best on best is it? Like you just kind of wonder, okay, like is Canada going to be the number one, the favorite going in? I don't think they are. I think that'd be United States for the next time through, because just the goaltending or lack thereof goaltending that Canada has in comparison to the USA, Sweden, Finland, and the like. Canada is lacking in the net, and so you build your team from the net out. And right now, even though you'd have McDavid, you'd have a Makar, and probably an aging Sidney Crosby still on that hockey team, I can't see Canada being the odds-on favorite going in, which they have been the last few times at the Olympics, where there's a few times it was kind of a bit of a joke that the way those tournaments turned out. It was 2014 was the last one where they just wiped through the competition, and nobody really had a chance there. But it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out politically wise. I know the wars and everything else are much bigger than the world of hockey, but it would be nice to get Russia back on track and back in the Olympics and everything else. Speaking of Russians and who wasn't, the one thing that was a real damper last night for me, and I saw more of it today than I did last night, but I noticed it last night, and then I got into a bit of a dive in the NHL world, or to the skills competition. And Nikita Kucherov's performance last night in the skills competition was absolutely abhorrent. And that's being nice. I had some other adjectives I was going to throw in there to describe the effort that he put in last night. The dude, if you don't, I know you're forced to be there to an extent. You're supposed to represent your team, and on it goes. And you're one of the guys. There's a lot of guys that could have been in there, because they only had a certain amount of guys that were involved in the skills competition that are in the All-Star game, and there was no reason why he should have, if he didn't want to put an effort in, because his effort was it was one of those efforts you see a grade 8, the cool guy in grade 8, he's too cool to do the stuff. And that's what Kucherov was last night. Guy, if you didn't want to be there, just say, I don't want to be there, I'm drunk or whatever. Just say, you know what, or I got a little tweak, maybe put somebody else in, or just tell the truth. Say, you know what, I'll play in the game, but I'm not interested at all in doing this skills competition. I get it. It doesn't matter. I get it. The guy's an all-time talent. The guy's an all-worldly player. But that attitude last night showed the entitlement of hockey players and athletes and rich people in general, famous people in general, not rich people, famous people, that the entitlement that they have. Like you had one end of the spectrum, you had McDavid putting in the effort that he put on. And then you had on the other side, you had what Kucherov did last night, and it was an absolute embarrassment to Kucherov and to the game, and to if it was a Tampa Bay Lightning fan, I know they probably just laughed it off and everything else, but it was a bad look for a guy in the National Hockey League, and it kind of gave kids the look that they can act that way. If they don't like it, they're going to take their net and go home. It was an embarrassment. He should be embarrassed. He should. I don't know what you do. You can't. I mean, that's not going to matter 4 days from now. But it was a really bad look and everything else. Like it was a really good event. Like I said, it wasn't a great event last night. It was on, so I watched it. But if I was home, I probably wouldn't have tuned in. I probably wouldn't have had it on. But we were out and about a little bit. So it was there. And if people, like I said, people just seemed to enjoy it, and that's I guess that's what you're shooting for. It was a better event than it was 2 or 3 years ago with everything that's been going on in the world. But it was a decent event. I don't know. It was just that the Kucherov thing really put a bad taste in my mouth. And one thing I had to laugh at last night when David Pastrnak of the Boston Bruins, when he rolled onto the ice and he got the boos from the Toronto faithful, which is understood. The rivalry between the Leafs and the Bruins is a long history, and it goes back to how many years. And Pastrnak, when he's getting the serenaded with the Bronx cheers and the boos and everything else from the Toronto fans, how he grabbed his jersey and kissed the B of the Bruins on his jersey. So he kind of got a little bit of fun there. And it was fun that it was that you had that. And the fans were engaged in the building last night, and they saw the stuff that was going on, and the skill level of the guys who put the effort in was something to behold. It was a really good thing to see for the National Hockey League. Then Gary Bettman had his every player took the podium yesterday talking about certain things, and Gary Bettman was asked about the sex scandal with the Hockey Canada and that whole story. We're not going to get into that whole thing again, but he I don't know if he handled it very well, because he said, like, he thought it was abhorrent, he thought it was disgusting and everything else, which is, everybody has their own opinion on that, no matter which you're going. So I'm not going to get into that. I think people know my opinion on the whole thing, but the thing about it is that the NHL is not going to suspend the players. I think the players have already suspended themselves. So I don't think that the NHL is going to be a step into this, because the PA is not going to say one thing, and because they weren't part of the National Hockey League Player Association back then, and on it goes. So it's something that's out of Bettman's hands. So, and I wish reporters would know the facts before they ask these questions and try for clicks and everything else, because that's all it can turn out to be. Because YouTube, not YouTube so much, but Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and everything else, you can clip things real to your liking and to your bias, I guess you could say. So no matter what people say in that situation, you're going to get clickbait, and you're going to get persecuted no matter what, because if a reporter wants a person to say something, they can ask a certain question a certain way, and if a guy says the wrong thing, then you're kind of because the internet lasts forever, right? It's one of those things. And Sidney Crosby, he was asked the same thing last night by a reporter about the culture in hockey, and he says, you know what, I don't think it's up to me to I said, it's not up to me to give a 16-second answer to this. If you want to talk off the air or off camera and do a full interview, we can do that. And apparently he did that, and that's the right way to do things, because it's if you get that clickbait and everything else, a bad scene. So Crosby handled that 100% correctly. So we can have an interview off air, or not off air, but like not here when we only have 10 seconds to talk. He said we can do a full interview afterwards, and apparently he did that, and that's the right way to do things. And Crosby, of course, always does seems to do the right thing. He's kind of like the Derek Jeter of the NHL over the years, and he's a class act 100%. I should read up on what Crosby had to say about that situation last night, because I don't think that hockey's okay, I'm gonna get killed. I'll say I don't think hockey's culture is a disaster. I think that just culture in general is a disaster. And the thing that bothers me about this whole thing, it's horrible, obviously. But what's odd is that it doesn't just happen in hockey. It happens in football. It happens in basketball. It happens in soccer. It happens in sports. It happens in the entertainment world. It happens in the non-entertainment world. This stuff happens throughout the world. And for people to put it on just hockey, it's a bad look for everybody else. And it just exaggerates the problem, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, if people just take a step back and say, like your neighbors get sexually abused, your neighbors gets not your neighbors, but you know what I mean. Like, people that we know are part of this, who aren't part of the hockey world, who aren't part of the football world, who aren't part of the soccer world. It happens all over society in general. So that's actually the problem. Hockey's not the problem. It's society that's the problem. And that's the biggest thing that people got to start to realize, is that it's not just sports, it's society, and it's just the way things, not the way things are, it's the way things have been. And it's got to find a way to change internally or externally, before you can get to just what the problems in hockey is. Hockey has done a lot of things over the years since the Graham James thing, what's it, 40 years ago now, since that 35 years ago, since that whole story came out. And now the criminal record checks that have to happen with coaches, and on it goes. But people still get through the cracks no matter what. They find a way to get in. You look at the U.S. Olympic women's gymnastics team, all that crap that was going on. The Michigan, no, what was it? Well, the Penn State one. You look at what happened down in Texas, and on and on it goes. So for people to just nail the National Hockey League and hockey in general to the wall on this scenario, I think it's wrong. Is hockey, do they have a problem? Yeah, but like I said, everything in this world has a problem, and it's not just a hockey thing. It goes right across the culture in general. Like there's been abuse to women and men been happening right across the world for a very long time. It didn't happen since hockey started getting played by young men and women across the world. So people got to just slow their roll a little bit when it comes to that. But that's my opinion and just how it should be handled. It's never an easy conversation to have. It's never a good thing to talk about. But for reporters to look for clickbait, I know they got to ask the hard questions, but they don't need to be getting the hard answers, is what I'm saying. Like there's sometimes you just don't know, and sometimes some not saying anything sometimes the best way. It's some of those things. I'm not saying no comment and avoid the best way to avoid a situation, but for no matter what, how it's done, there's no right way to answer those questions because there's a lot of stuff going on in this world that you can say one wrong thing and you get canceled forever. So you really got to watch what you say. And that's just it's too bad the world's like that, but that's how we podcasters and reporters and everything else, that's how we get clicks and listens and all that other stuff. It's crazy, but it's true. Anyways, little word from our sponsors over there at SeatGeek.
SeatGeek presents Boomstick Lady. SeatGeek helps her find the perfect seat so she can sit where her boomsticks make the biggest boom. Oh, okay. SeatGeek handles the tickets so fans can fan.
Anyways, got the bad news yesterday. Like it's crazy. Like the older you get, and the stuff you remember when people pass away. And yesterday, the world lost a good one. Anyways, a 1420 tip of the cap goes out to Carl Weathers, best known for his role as Apollo Creed in the first 4 Rocky movies. I'm going to say it on the line. I think that Rocky 2 is not only the best sports movie ever created, it's also the best movie ever created. I've always thought that. And so the way that the first 4 movies with Apollo turned out, and with Rocky losing the first one to Apollo, then the second fight when Rocky came out and won that, and then when Apollo came out and started training Rocky after Mickey passed away against Mr. T, Clubber Lang, and then losing his life to Apollo or to Ivan Drago in the 4th one. Carl Weathers in his role as Apollo Creed is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. Whenever Rocky's on, no matter 1, 2, 3, or 4, I don't turn away from it. It stays on the TV. I probably watch all those movies 100 times each. Apollo Creed definitely was one of the best growing up. Who can forget the Eye of the Tiger training on the beach when they're running down the everything else and running. So tip of the cap once again to Carl Weathers, passed away yesterday at the age of 76. Apollo, you'll never be forgotten in the history and everything else. So it's a sad day in in my youth, in my mind, right? One of those things. It's you remember those movies, and you remember how many times you watch them, and then you're cheering in your inside, even outside, you give a vocal cheer when Rocky would knock down Apollo and everything else. But just great movies all in general. Like I know the gluttony of it was a bit much, and the brutality of it was a bit much. But when you look back on it, like there's no way a guy could withstand those kind of punches and everything else in real boxing. But it was great cinema, great drama, no matter what. And like I said, a 1420 tip of the cap goes out to Carl Weathers, who passed away yesterday at the age of 76. That's it. That's all for today's 1420 in the morning. Got a lot going on, as we always say, but we'll keep putting it out there. Make sure you guys go and check out our friends over at Fan of the Van. Check out the other guys rising the occasion over there with Josh Muller. Who else? We got Level the Playing Field, the guys out in Toronto. Make sure you check out their podcast, and everybody else who puts out a show. Just got asked by Jim, the Fan of the Van. We're going to be joining E-Man on his show on Friday night to talk some Super Bowl. So we'll be there having a good time on there. Cigar and Smoke is what they call it, sports and cigars. Sports and cigars. And so we'll be on there to have a few laughs and talk some Super Bowl. Be our first time on that show and everything else we got going on. So MCing a banquet tonight too. I'm the MC at the PBA celebration of baseball thing tonight, so that should be a lot of fun. Did it last year and went out without a hitch, so they asked me back for a second term, so it should be a lot of fun. Anyways, that's it for today's show, folks. Make sure you go to SeatGeek.com, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and listen to the podcast. It's a lot of fun. Anyways, that's it for today's show. We'll talk to you guys later, and have a good night, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. That's it. And you know what? Doesn't matter where you are. It's who you're with. Have a good day, folks. We'll talk to you later. You just listened to the 1420 Sports Bar podcast. 4 beer with sports talking a whole lot more. We are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Let's get into it.